Okay, my friends, here it is. The video that is going to explain to you exactly what you need to do in order to create a thriving soil microbiome and therefore have massive success this upcoming growing season. So I'm going to say some things about it, and then I'm going to take you out into the garden and show you exactly step by step what you need to do in order to create a thriving soil community. So first, we have to understand a couple of things. Number one is the common misconception that the gardener grows the plants, when you actually don't grow the plants. The plant grows itself, so long as it has everything that it needs. And what does that mean? It means that this plant is an expression of the soil. Everything comes from the soil. If you have a thriving soil microbiome, then virtually any plant that you put into that soil is going to thrive. Now, what do the soil microorganisms need? If that's your job, is to essentially become a microbe farmer, what do the soil microorganisms need? They need the same things you do. 4 essential things, and that is going to be food, water, air, and shelter. Now, let us examine these briefly, although we'll touch on them later when we go outside. Food. You got to give them something to eat. Without food, nothing is going to survive. So your soil microbes need something to eat. That can be compost, that can be manure, that can be dry granular fertilizers, alfalfa meal, all that kind of stuff. Organic matter is what they like to eat. Next thing is going to be water. It is actually not commonly known that soil microbes are aquatic organisms. And so even in very dry soil, there is a microscopic layer of water that is on the soil aggregates. And that is where the microorganisms like to move. So they need the water, but not too much water. So you have to have good drainage in the soil, which leads us to the next thing that they need, and that is air. Yes, the soil breathes as well. And so both of those things, water and air, are taken care of with proper soil structure and drainage. Very important, and you will see it as we go out here. Now, the final thing is going to be shelter. They need and want protection. The ultraviolet radiation destroys them. So to leave your soil exposed is the worst thing you can do for it. So there's many different kinds of mulches, but I'll show you my exact system out here. So let us get into it. And as we watch this, leave in the comments how you prepare your soil. What things do you do to bolster your community of microorganisms? And then go through and read the comments, because we got a good, knowledgeable community here. Okay, my friends, so we are out here in the garden, and you can see that everything is covered with a thick layer of mulch. Now that is how we store it all winter long. The soil stays nice and covered. Now you can see here, this is, we're pHing the soil, or testing the pH, which I explained in my last video is completely unnecessary. But what I want to show you here is that you see how nice the soil is. That when we keep it covered, we keep it covered with an organic mulch so that the earthworms can eat it. But also, here's the downside of a mulch, is that it insulates the soil, yes, but look at how cool it is. 44 degrees Fahrenheit, and it actually dropped down to 42 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is very cool soil, okay? So what we're going to do to fix that is we're going to get our farm hand here, and we're going to take off as much of the mulch as we can, okay? So it is the middle of March here, and we are going to remove the mulch from the soil. Now, we are definitely not going to leave it exposed, but if we leave that mulch on there, it's going to take weeks for that soil to heat up to appropriate levels. And we're trying to plant onions here in this spot in the next 2 weeks. And so we need to make sure that this stuff is warm enough so that we can plant. And if we left that huge thick layer of leaves, it will delay the warming of the soil by several weeks. And so what we're going to do is we're going to remove the mulch, and then we're going to take this broad fork here. Our good friends at Bootstrap Farmer, who sponsors today's video, sent us this broad fork. Now, I've had several broad forks in my life, but this one is actually probably the one that is my favorite because it is nice and lightweight. All the other ones can be really heavy, and that gets tiresome. But for those 5 years before I did the one-time till on this garden, and I was no-till for 5 years, all I did was use the broad fork. The broad fork is a tremendous tool. And that's all I'm going to be using again here now in these beds. You just plunge it deep into there, and you just pry open the depth of the soil. See there how there's just a little bit of crack. We're not actually trying to, flip this soil over. We're just getting deep in there, and we're allowing it to breathe. Now, this is all I used for all those 5 years was the broad fork on each one of the beds, and it provides a good amount of air to the soil and drainage. So 2 of those things that the plants need are being done here when we are loosening up the soil with the broad fork. Now, I'm not the slightest bit concerned that this is damaging the soil because I know how to do it properly. I'm taking it easy, and we're just doing it until you see that little bit of crack right there. That's enough, and that's going to allow the soil to breathe and to open up some of the drainage. Now, this one from Bootstrap Farmer is light enough that even the women can do it, which is not possible with the other one. The other one is so heavy that it's like a full shoulder workout to do it. But this one is nice and light. And so there's a link in the description. If you guys want this one, go ahead and get it. And I will get a small kickback from that if you want. That's cool. Thank you. Tegan, thanks you as well. Now the next step is going to be fertility. Because remember, you have to give the microbes something to eat. And so here we are going to utilize the Viking granular nutrients, which are available for you guys. The website will be operational in the next week or so. I have lots of buckets of this stuff if you guys want some. But we are just going to sprinkle this liberally. We're going to use 3 whole quarts for this 4x10 bed. That's because these onions need it supercharged. And there's lots of good sulfuric compounds in this fertilizer so that we can supercharge those onions. And then we're just going to rake it into the top 2 inches of the soil. And this is all that is going to be required. Now, you can use compost at this time. You can use manures, so long as they're a little bit composted. Whatever fertility you have. We're adding this stuff now because in 2 weeks or less, we're planting the onions. So you don't want to add something like the Viking granular or alfalfa meal or bone meal or blood meal. You don't want to add any of that any more than 2 weeks. That's right about the sweet spot. You can just add it at time of planting, but since we're going and preparing the beds, we're going to do it like this. Now, after we have the food for the microbes, okay, so we've got the air and the water taken care of from the broad fork, and then we've got the food taken care of from the granular nutrients or compost. Now we're going to give them shelter, and so we've just got some landscaping fabric, and yes, the beds were designed so that they could be done like this, and then we're just going to hold that fabric down. Now, this landscaping fabric is going to allow for the rain and air to penetrate a little bit the fabric. Okay, so it's not like straight up plastic, although you could use that still. But we are just going to put these boards here on the side so that it will hold it down. You could also use the staples that can come with it, but I found best success utilizing the board method like this, and you can use them several seasons in a row, no problem. Now, here is the pro tip when you are using landscaping fabric. Use a hot knife, okay? Do not just get a sharp knife or scissors and cut this stuff, or you will have it frayed all over the place. It'll look like trash. There will be bits of plastic. If you do like this with a hot knife, you're cauterizing it, and you will have nice clean lines. This is not going to fray. You can use these landscaping sheets for several seasons, because once the bed, once you start planting in it, if you don't decide to use it, then just roll it up and put it in the basement or whatever. But the hot knife is the way to go. So here we have most of the beds done, and you can see here that now that sun is going to beat down on this black plastic fabric, and it is going to help warm the beds tremendously. I mean, this seriously will speed it up by weeks. And it's going to allow the air and water to penetrate. And of course, Shiva the Destroyer wants to walk and roll all over it. She's like, wait, what? But I thought you just made me a litter box. Yeah. So here is what you can do if you have like perennials or something like these chives or bunching onions or green onions. Just fold the fabric back and let them come up naturally. These are the garlic chives that'll be coming up. These are actual multiplier onions, not bunching onions, not green onions, classic multiplying onions, a different thing. More like a shallot. They do form a small bulb, but we're not going to bother trying to burn holes in the landscaping fabric and lay it over this. We're just going to keep that soil covered with this nice leaf mulch, and it's going to stay like that. Now here's the garlic bed, which we put the straw down last fall, and you can see that the soil has settled. But here's the thing, guys. This mulch, it's like 8 inches thick. The soil is almost frozen still. Literally, because it's so insulated, the soil is almost frozen. That's the drawback of having such thick insulation. That's a pro for the summertime, but for now, it's a little bit, keeps things a little bit too cool. So here is what the garden is looking like, guys. We've got, now let us know if you want to see the video. It'll probably be the next video where I'm gonna show you guys why I'm not using wood chips in the paths and instead what I did instead. Okay, now I want to show you one more way that you can use this broad fork. So you can use it for much more than just gently aerating the beds. So if you've got a small area that you need to really loosen up, like for carrots or beets or something that is soft and needs good soil, fluffy soil, you can basically use it like a tiller, and you can just stomp on it and then flip the soil over completely like this. You see the difference though, that I'm going all the way back. I'm stomping on it deeply and then I'm going all the way back so that that soil is fully exposed. And we just got Indiana clay soil here, guys. I mean, it is rock solid pottery wheel type clay. So then I'm going to take this here Asian hoe and I'm just going to chop it up a little bit finer. And this is really going to help. Now is when you could add some peat moss or some perlite or some leaf mold or some compost. You can add your organic matter and then just rake it out, guys. And so even though we had no tiller, look at the one on the left versus the one on the right. Okay, so the one on the right, we didn't take the broad fork and I cannot even get my hand into it. It's Indiana clay soil. Even though it's been had good practices for the past 5 years, it still doesn't really matter. It's still rock solid, dense clay. And that's going to be real difficult to plant into. So you can use your broad fork and you can make it like this. Look, in just like 1 minute, I made the soil like this, soft and fluffy and friable. And this is going to be much better for things like carrots and onions and beets and any of that kind of stuff that wants a more loose soil. So I highly recommend you guys can get one. You can check it out. Link is in the description. So there you go, my friends. If you want to get that broad fork, there is a link in the description. But now I want to tell you something that I know it's going to sound totally crazy because it's only the middle of March, but you got to start thinking about the fall garden, okay? Because remember, we plant the fall garden the last week of June. So you can get these Bootstrap Farmer trays. The links are in the description. These heavy duty, nice pots. I'm really liking them. And these are big. We're not planting anything in the springtime in these. These are for the fall garden. We plant the cabbages and the Brussels sprouts and all kinds of good stuff. Heavy duty. They've got this nice thing that we can water underneath, pick them all up and water underneath. It's not going anywhere. I like them very much, this Bootstrap Farmer. You can also use these 32 cell trays like this here. I got the parsley in them, yeah. And they allow you to get them good roots going on down there. And the parsley is nice and healthy because they got everything they need. They're not falling over and stuff. Look, in these smaller ones, you can also do sweet potatoes. I got dozens and dozens of these sweet potato things already started. You could also do onions. You can do onions in the small ones. So whatever it is, they got you covered. Check out the links in the description. And we will see you guys right here every Saturday at 12 noon Eastern time for the live Q&A. And just a reminder, it is time to start hardening off your plants, such as this parsley, and we got celery, and we got onions. We're all hardening them off.